moments of the accident and making some recommendations. To what extent will this report help reform the aviation sector and also the closure that is needed? We'll ask some questions tonight. Stay with us. Also, the Minority Leader, Alexander Apanyomakin, may be in for more trouble as Majority Leader Mahama Yariga reports him to the Speaker of Parliament for attending an ECOWAS Parliament meeting despite being removed from Ghana's delegation. We have the background story for you. Stay with us. Also, as we build up to the 2026 budget presentation on Thursday, we engage a financial analyst on the risks that the Ghanaian economy may be exposed to despite the positive outlook. Stay with us. As always, you're an integral part of the conversation. We have this, including the latest in SML and matters arising. And as always, connect with us on Facebook and on YouTube at TV3 Ghana. And let's hear your voice. Let's settle for Ghana Briefs.
The minority has kicked against the renegotiated lithium mining agreement laid before Parliament by the Lands Minister Emmanuel Kofi-Boah, which is expected to come with improved terms and benefits to the state. Former Lands Minister Samuel Jinapor says the new lease is worse than the first introduced under the Akufo-Addo government, but the Lands Minister explained the new agreement with Barari DV Ghana Limited is more rewarding.
The Deputy Minority Leader, Kofi-Boah, as he then was, is right here in this chamber. Mr. Speaker, he and his colleagues denied us the opportunity to lay this paper, that they won't allow.
The Honorable Abu Jinapor got his facts wrong. You were the minister responsible for the sector at that time. You brought the agreement, laid it. It was referred to the committee, and my recollection is that it never came back to the floor of the House. So you cannot say that this House rejected it.
The Speaker of Parliament, Alban Gbagwin, has apologized to the judiciary and its members for the heated exchanges and lack of decorum that characterized the vetting of the Chief Justice nominee on Monday. While assuring them of Parliament's continued respect, he has directed the leadership of the Appointments Committee to take notice of the vetting incident and ensure that highest standards of civility and institutional respect is observed in all future proceedings.
I have directed the leadership of the Appointments Committee to take note of this incident and to ensure that in all future proceedings, the highest standards of civility, objectivity, and institutional respect are maintained.
The Ghana Catholic Bishops' Conference has intimated that the fight against galamsey by government is not enough. According to the Catholic bishops, the distraction caused by illegal mining activities on the environment is a silent form of violence against the vulnerable and a sin against creation.
Galamsey continues to corrode both the land and the moral soul of our nation. As of 2023, over 60% of Ghana's rivers and streams were polluted. 34 forest reserves compromised, and more than 4,700 hectares of forest destroyed.
The National Association of Poultry Farmers is raising concerns over their exclusion from the Nkuko and Kitten project by government. According to the association's chairman, George Dasa, no formal consultation has been conducted to involve them in the project. He further warns that without proper implementation, the poultry industry risks facing a possible glut.
A lot of chicken is going to be in the system. The system will be flooded with chicken. We'll have gluts of chicken. The question is who buys it? But just yesterday I heard the minister made mention that when it comes to the egg glut, the president asked the Ministry of Education to offload or to offtake the eggs. Other than that, when these chicken grow, they mature, who takes it? Who buys it?
The Health Facilities Regulatory Authority has shut down the Tamale Technical University Hospital after inspections revealed poor safety and infection prevention standards. The hospital will remain closed until all safety issues are resolved. HEFRA has also imposed a 35,000 fine for regulatory violations and directed the facility to regularize its licensing status. The authority emphasized its mandate under the Health Institutions and Facilities Act 2011, Act 829, to license and monitor all healthcare facilities in Ghana to ensure safe service delivery. Former Chief Executive Officer of the Bulk Oil Storage and Transportation Company Limited, BOST, Edwin Provincial, has been arrested by the Economic and Organized Crime Office, EOCO. According to reports, Edwin Provincial was arrested at the Kutuka International Airport while he was en route to Mozambique. The former BOST CEO had been placed on a stop list as part of investigations into activities during his tenure at the oil firm. Provincial was reportedly accosted on Monday, November 10, as he was boarding a flight which headed to Maputo without permission from investigators.
There's more on 3news.com. Make some time to visit 3news.com. This is Ghana Tonight. We're live as well on 3FM 92.7. As always, probably brought to you by Flamingo Paint, Simply Superior, Sasson Sensai Spray and Qualcomm, Tum Tum Precom. Coming up next year on Ghana Tonight, the government's Z9 crash report drops, revealing final moments and some details and some key fixes in terms of recommendations to ensure that this does not happen again. But then again, this report has, and the details of it has led to some questions as well being asked right now. This investigative committee probing the August 6, 2025 military helicopter crash has confirmed that the incident was caused by a sudden loss of altitude and lift due to a powerful downdraft. Now, the committee's report formally presented to authorities ruled out human error. That's number one. That's a notable to a derivation earlier today, noting that the pilots were highly qualified and highly certified to operate the aircraft. Let's take a listen to Captain Paul Fojo, who's an aircraft accident investigator who, together with the team, put together this report. Take a listen to him.
The helicopter was airworthy, but it lacked additional safety enhancements. For instance, the terrain awareness warning system. Now, you know, the terrain awareness warning system, for instance, is predictive. So what it does is it warns you, it gives you a better picture of the situation and puts the pilots in puts them in the position to make better judgments, to be able to see everything and be able to foretell if there are any things that could possibly create a problem. but they lacked the additional safety enhancements required for the weather phenomenon over that terrain. There was adverse weather, there was limited visibility, there was rising rugged terrain, with this terrain induced complicating factors, and there were no ground-based navigational route aids en route. The investigation would like to say that from everything they gathered, the emergency response was very timely. The fact that these first responders managed to get to the site in about 2 hours was remarkable, because the terrain has very steep slopes. It was raining, it was slippery. So it wasn't the easiest thing to do. When we went to the site, it was also raining and it was very slippery. And we struggled using sticks and everything to try to get up there. So looking at everything, we would say very confidently that the emergency response was very timely. The investigation determined that the accident was caused by the sudden loss of altitude and lift due to downdraft. This loss of altitude without change in power or pitch altitude is consistent with downdraft associated with changing environmental conditions over high terrain.
So that's quite clear in the adverse weather, limited visibility. That's one of the major issues that came up. Let's engage Wing Commander Patrick Sobojo, retired, because right from the day of this rather unfortunate incident up until this moment that we're hearing the details of this report, he's been one person we've been engaging over the period. He's joining us on Zoom right now. Wing Commander Patrick Sobojo, retired. Good evening. Thank you for joining us here on Ghana Tonight.
Good evening, Alfred. How are you doing?
I'm well. I mean, it could have been better if this incident did not happen in the first place. But then again, we're getting to know the full details of the report right now. And first off, listening to the details of it as was presented earlier today by Captain Fojo, and two things standing out: adverse weather and limited visibility. And the aircraft was not even equipped with the needed instruments to detect the bad weather, and they didn't even get any warning from the command center before they got to that point. Concerning, to say the least, is it not?
No, I don't think this is what he said. You know, they have been operating these Z helicopters and other helicopters in Ghana Air Force. Without these enhancements, I mean, these Z9 recently flew the president and all over the country. They've been zigzagging. Much as we may need some enhancements, these enhancements would have prevented the accident.
The enhancements couldn't...
The operator knows how he's going to operate this aircraft. And these planes have been flying for the last 10, 15 years without an accident. If we're talking about enhancement, they are good recent development, but they couldn't, as Fojo said, prevent the accident.
I see. But then there was a clear reference to what the bad weather component, which was in fact the major reason that has been identified for this crash. Bad weather that led to limited visibility. Right? Is that to say that? Yes, I was saying that. Is that to say that? I mean, if we have been flying this, as you're saying, for the past 10 to 15 years, it had been navigating bad weather all the while, and so this wouldn't have been anything different.
Well, he has said it. Even Captain Fojo has said it wouldn't have averted the crash. It enhances, but it couldn't have averted what happened.
Yes, but then again, that's why I say the underlying concern here is if you're flying, obviously you would have to envisage bad weather. You've been in the skies for a long time.
We know no one has control of the weather. No one, yes. No matter how sophisticated your aircraft is. You are at the mercy of the weather. And if you realize before takeoff from Accra, he must have fired his flight plan to Obuasi, and he flew all the way, just about 6 minutes to land when this thing happened. You can't control the weather.
Yes, but that said, I think that's a fair point that has been established. But even before the takeoff, which you referenced, according to the details of this report, takeoff was delayed for about an hour because of bad weather.
But that is how it should be. The control tower will not clear you until weather is okay. So once the control tower clears you, the weather is okay, take off and en route. That's it, you go. Planes are delayed all the time.
Indeed, and that's why if it was delayed as a result of bad weather and then eventually cleared to go, that yes, based on that, at least there was that indication, as you have indicated, that you are the mercy of the weather. But then, if because of bad weather you were delayed for an hour, there's a clear indication of what is ahead of you, is it not?
No, sir, I disagree with you.
Why?
Weather en route is different from a sudden weather change.
I didn't get that. You said what is different?
I said that once the control tower clears you, this accident happened 6 minutes to London. So weather en route might have changed. It wasn't a weather persisting in Accra or on a route at the time they cleared it.
Yes, but then the question about the helicopter flying at a high altitude, then all of a sudden it dropped to a low altitude. Even before today, you had indicated that the answer to that question would unlock what caused this crash. Did you get that answer today?
If you remember when the accident happened in your studio, I said what we should find out what caused the aircraft to lose height. And now on the board of inquiry, have exonerated the aircraft and the pilots. The weather en route is not something which is like a tree standing, a mango, you're going to take it. Weather can change at any time.
But explain this to me. When Captain Fojo says the investigation determined that the immediate cause of the accident was the sudden loss of altitude and lift due to downdraft. The
downdraft, listen.
Yes.
The downdraft pushed the aircraft down. We have downdraft and updraft. The downdraft pushed the aircraft down in that situation. And they were trying to lift up to go through they've gone through IMC. A downdraft, you see.
I can hear you.
When you are flying in normal fixed wing aircraft, we fly such a high altitude that downdraft doesn't cause a problem. But helicopters flying in visual flight regulations, which means that the pilot must see the ground. So they are not maybe 1,000, 2,000 feet above the highest object. And so if you have a downdraft, by the time you get into it and it pushes you down, the time you have to recover is very short, small seconds. And the plane couldn't go up because the downdraft was pushing it down.
And he said that this loss of height occurred without any change in the power or pitch attitude from the crew.
It's not the power. The power will make you lose height. But the cause of the downdraft, the aircraft coming down, was caused by the weather.
Yes. And one other finding, and because you touched on the control tower information between the time of departure and then the expected time of arrival, there was a finding of the lack of en route weather information. A major environmental constraint was the lack of weather information available to the pilot along the flight route. The crew relied only on
Alfred.
Yes.
Accra Obuasi is not a normal air route. You can't have those gadgets fixed up in the whole country. How many times we fly from Accra to Obuasi? If you're talking about maybe Accra Kumasi, yes, it's a route. But Accra to Obuasi is not a normal route that you can have those gadgets planted, service them, then once a while a plane will fly there. It's not possible.
I want us to take a listen to exactly the point he made about the weather.
Yes, go ahead.
Yes, perfect. And I'm going to come back to you on it. Let's take a listen to Captain Fojo on the weather impact.
There was adverse weather. There was limited visibility. There was rising rugged terrain. With this terrain induced complicating factors, and there were no ground-based navigational route aids en route. The investigation would like to say that from everything they gathered, the emergency response was very timely. The fact that these first responders managed to get to the site in about 2 hours was remarkable.
That's the verdict of the findings.
I'm saying is that Accra Obuasi is not a normal route, and you can't have scattered gadgets all over the country. It is not possible. Even United States, where recently a helicopter flew into an airline, losing 78 people, it didn't happen.
I see, but now we're having to deal with this situation where the lack of en route weather information, which you say the route is not a normal route, but according to the details of this investigation, the crew relied only on aerodrome weather reports.
And that's the only thing they could have.
For Accra and Kumasi. That's all they had, the aerodrome weather reports.
Yes, we have two types of flights. We have visual flight regulations and instruments. On the visual, the pilot must be in constant vision of the earth or whatever it is, okay? And you are in control. When you go in the flight information reading, that's about 10,000 feet, then you are controlled. But the visual VFR, you are not controlled. You have to do your own navigation from point A to point B. And as he said, yes, it is true that we don't have gadgets fixed, but they cannot fit gadgets everywhere. They can't. They're expensive to maintain. How many times are they going to contact them?
And because of this particular issue, there was also the identification of the limited national navigational capability. That's the point that you ended on. Because if you permit me,
I'm saying that even advanced countries, you don't have navigational instruments scattered all over, unless you go to a flight information center, get information in the flight room. AFR, then you can go in the corridors. But VFR, you don't need them.
Right.
You don't need them. I've flown in Brazil, flown in Italy. You don't need them. And in fact, these gadgets didn't cause the accident.
Well, because one of the findings is the systemic factor was the limited national navigational capability available for providing both en route and remote areas weather services to the aircraft. The environment also lacked ground-based navigational aids.
I am telling you, Ghana doesn't have it. And the pilot was flying visual flying routes. That means you fly, everything was under his control. There were no gadgets we communicated to. We don't have it. And that's not a responsibility of Ghana Air Force. It's civil aviation.
As the Ghana Civil Aviation Authority. And I want you to stay with me because I just want to run through some of the recommendations. When Commander will round up on this. Some of the recommendations, in terms of the safety recommendations, they talk about the modernizing the Ghana Air Force fleet, which Captain Fojo says it has to be as soon as possible, immediately. Says no time to waste on that one. Acquire aircraft with the terrain awareness and warning systems, and then also enhance ground proximity warning systems. That's the TAWS and then EGPWS and advanced navigation systems. Install CVR, that is the cockpit voice recorder, and then also flight data recorder with audiovisual capability. Invest in flight simulators for regular training. When Commander Sobodo, way to go, this?
I would have asked for you, who I know very well, a good pilot. His elder brother on the same squadron with me, he died, may he rest in peace. What I'm saying is that the gadgets which you are talking about were not the cause of the accident. He said that in his report. You can have them, or you can still have an air crash as an accident. This was a weather type of emergency they went into, and that's what happened. If you're talking about modernization of our air fleet, if the country has the money, why not? The Air Force will be happy. But I can tell you that planes are not judged by their age, they are judged by their flying hours.
Thank you. This is one that is going to be a subject of a lot more conversation to understand how the way forward should be. I think the most important thing is the big takeaway so that this does not happen again. And that's what has influenced these recommendations. What should be the big takeaway so that this doesn't happen again, beyond what we have just read in this report? I round up on this one. Wing Commander.
The inquiries are supposed to be a learning lesson for pilots to become aware of them. But when they have incidents like this, which is the weather, we just shut up and give them a downdraft. Anybody can fall in that category. Anyone. And I'm saying the enhancement things he's talking about are good if you have them. But the Air Force was inaugurated about 1959. And from 1959, we had only 4 crashes. And Ghana Air Force is very respected in flight safety matters.
Wing Commander Sobojo, thank you so much for joining us on Ghana Tonight.
I appreciate your time.
Indeed.
Let it rest on this once and for all. It's just an accident. Thank you.
Well, thank you, but also the families of these persons and the gallant Ghanaians we've lost are living with the heavy impact of the loss and need closure as well. So this is also important. Thank you. When Commander Sobojo retired, thank you for joining us here on Ghana Tonight. We do appreciate you. Let's go on to some other issues tonight. The Minority Leader, Alexander Apenyomakin, the Futu Member of Parliament, appears to be in hot waters as Mahama Yarga, the Majority Leader, reports him to the Speaker for showing up at an ECOWAS meeting after being removed or dropped from Ghana's delegation. What's the backstory to this? That's all of this happening right now. Well, the Majority Leader has called for sanctions against the Minority Leader for allegedly breaching parliamentary rules. Now, he explains that the Minority Leader has attended an ECOWAS Parliament meeting even though he is not a member of Ghana's delegation. Let's take a listen to him.
ECOWAS delegation, we have Honorable George Kweku Ricketts Hagan as the leader of the delegation. Then we have Honorable Emmanuel Kwesi Bedzora, who has always been a member of the delegation, to remain a member. Honorable Ladi Ayamba, who has been a long-standing member of the delegation, to remain a member. Honorable Eric Affo is being added as a member. Honorable Dominic. This Parliament resolution removing him from the delegation to the ECOWAS Parliament and actually going to Port Harcourt and attending the session, Mr. Speaker, he has clearly affronted the dignity and engaged in an act that constitutes an affront to the authority of this Parliament, pursuant to the appropriate orders, to refer the Honorable Apenyomakin Alexander Kwamina to the Privileges Committee for him to be processed, that the appropriate sanctions be executed in relation to the Honorable Alexander Kwamina Apenyomakin.
Well, so this is what happened earlier today. In fact, Mama Yarga not too happy about what's happening, but to fully grasp the context of this issue, let's take a step back, okay? And just for the uninitiated, and see how Ghana's delegation to the ECOWAS Parliament was reconstituted and the circumstances under which Alexander Apenyomakin was dropped. So this is just the basis for what's happened today. Take a look at this.
For the ECOWAS delegation, we have Honorable George Kweku Ricketts Hagan as the leader of the delegation. Then we have Honorable Emmanuel Kwesi Bedzra, who has always been a member of the delegation, to remain a member. Honorable Ladi Ayamba, who has been a long-standing member of the delegation, to remain a member. Honorable Eric Affo is being added as a member. Honorable Dominic Napare is being added as a member. Mr. Speaker, it captures Honorable Alexander Kwamina Afenyo-Markin Osahin as a member, Honorable Kwame Aimedu Entry as a member, Honorable Brian Achampong as a member, and the discussion was to include Honorable Millicent Yeboah Amankwa as an observer. Mr. Speaker, there's still an issue with this composition. And the issue stems from the fact that the ECOWAS Parliament has some very, very firm position on the membership of female members of the delegation. The delegation must have, I think, 30% of the members being women. The position of this parliament has always been to send the deputy leaders as members of the delegation. That has always been the tradition. I shall move pursuant to our standing orders for the amendment of the composition of the delegation so that Honorable Alexander Kwamina Afenyo-Markin Osahini is removed and Honorable Patricia Apiaje is replaced.
Well, so this is what happened, right? And that's following that reshuffling of the Ghana delegation to the ECOWAS Parliament, and this was sometime in July, right? Following this reshuffle, the Deputy Minority Leader Patricia Apiaje wrote to express her disinterest in being part of the delegation. You heard Mama Yarga, the Majority Leader, mention her name. Well, she said that, look, this is a grand scheme which she doesn't want to be part of. That was her understanding of all of this. We're going to put on the screen a letter that she wrote after her name was added to Ghana's delegation to the ECOWAS Parliament. She says, I respectfully write to express my objection and hereby decline to be included in the reconstituted list of Ghana's delegation to the ECOWAS Parliament. I was neither consulted nor did I give my consent to be considered as a replacement for the minority leader, Honorable Alexander Kwamina Afenyo-Markin. I am particularly concerned that this development appears to be a calculated effort to cause division between myself and Honorable Alexander Kwamina Afenyo-Markin. It is deeply troubling that a contrary nomination was advanced on the floor without consultation. Honorable Alexander Kwamina Afenyo-Markin was duly sworn in as a member of the ECOWAS Parliament last year and subsequently elected as a deputy speaker of the ECOWAS Parliament. His tenure by law and by ECOWAS protocol remains valid and ongoing. There is therefore no legal or procedural justification for his removal. Using gender parity as a pretext for unilateral and procedurally irregular decisions undermines both the objective and the institutional harmony we seek to preserve. And she ends, she says, I do not intend to accept the offer made to me by the House and by this memo. I am refusing to be part of such a delegation. I pray that the clerk to Parliament does not communicate any such resolution to ECOWAS Parliament that includes my name. That's it. She says, look, don't want to be part of this. She saw it as a calculated attempt to cause some disaffection between herself and Alexander Afenyo-Markin. So that's actually what has resulted in this development right now. And now it is coming on the flowing, as we speak, Alexander Afenyo-Markin, according to what we're picking up, and based on the information that the Mama Yarga, reason why he is indeed asking the Privileges Committee to step into the matter, Alexander Penyomaking attended an ECOWAS Parliament sitting. And the speaker is saying that he's going to make a determination on this matter tomorrow. So it's one that we'll follow quite closely. Christian Yale, our parliamentary affairs correspondent, will be in Parliament. And so we'll be updating you as things unfold tomorrow. It's a place to watch. But coming up next on Ghana Tonight, as the 2026 budget looms, we speak to a financial analyst on the hidden risks threatening Ghana's economy despite its bright outlook. That's the conversation. Well, I'm not going to take you back a bit and recall exactly what the finance minister said during the presentation of the mid-year budget review, specifically about the outlook and then also the macroeconomic indicators for the first half of the year and the projections into the next half of the year, which is essentially ending soon. But all things being equal, he's expected to present a 2026 budget on Thursday. But let's backtrack a bit. Take a look at this.
Mr. Speaker, macroeconomic target. Economic development in the first half of the year do not warrant a revision to the macroeconomic target and the appropriations bill. Mr. Speaker, I am not asking for additional money from the Appropriations Act. We maintain the following macroeconomic target for 2025. 1. Overall GDP growth at least 4.0%. At least. Non-oil GDP growth of at least 4.8%. End-year inflation rate of 11.9%. Primary balance on commitment basis at a surplus of 1.5% of GDP. And gross international reserves covering not less than 3 months of import. Mr. Speaker, although we have made significant progress, we are cautiously optimistic.
Well, the cautious optimism of the Finance Minister, Dr. Kasiel Atuforsen, is one that the ratings agency Standard & Poor's, or S&P, have captured in their latest report on Ghana and Ghana's economy, essentially making the point they acknowledge the stability, the relative stability we have seen over the period or experienced over the period, but then there are some inherent risks as well, and the external risks that they want Ghana to take cognizance of. And this is it. Follow me closely. They make the point that, in their view, notwithstanding stronger recent economic outturns, Ghana's economy remains exposed to risks from commodity price fluctuations. And we're talking about crude oil prices, as well as we've seen a heavy inflow of forex from our export of gold. And the volatility in terms of the pricing of gold on the world market, the crude oil prices on the world market. Whenever the crude oil price goes up, we see how it impacts on the prices of petroleum products at the pumps. We've seen fuel prices trending downwards, but it went up in 2 pricing windows about 3 to 4 weeks ago. So that's what they're talking about. And broader external and weather-related shocks. So the concerns that Standard & Poor's puts about Ghana's economy are largely external, right? And they say they're worried, especially during future election cycles, which in the past have coincided with large increases in public spending. And that's what we see, election cycles and public spending. And so the economy will be doing well. When we get into the election year, we throw all the fiscal deficits out of gear, and we go into a spending mode because we want to win elections, and then we start the cycle back again. They say that's one of the major concerns they have. They're also talking about over 50% of our public debt is dominated in foreign currency, and exchange rate movements have a material impact on Ghana's debt to GDP ratios. So to the extent that over 50% of our public debt dominated in foreign currency, when we have issues with the city not doing well against the dollar, we see, even though government hasn't gone to borrow, we would see our external debts going up. Why? Because our currency, in terms of the debt, over 50% of it is held externally in foreign currency. So in some cases, it's not as though government has gone to borrow in much more money, but if the city depreciates against the dollar, the foreign component of our external debt goes up in value. But what's happening now, and which we're going to show you shortly, is that our external debt component of the public debt is actually reducing because the city is doing well. And so if you're having to pay now, we're going to pay lesser because the city has appreciated against the dollar. Good news, right? Sustainability is one other side of the question that we're going to answer. But Joe Jackson is a financial analyst. He's joining us on Zoom right now. Ms. Jackson, good evening. Thank you for joining us here on Ghana Tonight. First off, I want to find out from you, what are the other risks that, in your view, this budget should address so as to ensure the consolidation of the gains that we have seen throughout the year?
It is natural. Remember that at any time, there will be some external risk to every economic system, right? At the moment, one of our biggest exposures is to our commodity prices, right? If gold price dips, the challenge is that the softening of the price will mean that the gold board and the FX buffers we've built are going to go south. And that could mean that the stability we've enjoyed with the currency will not be there. If the oil price spikes, then fuel imports will rise, inflation will rise. So obviously, commodity exposure is high to gold, oil, to cocoa, because even though cocoa output is improving, we're still vulnerable to disease, the CSSVD, the weather, and worst of all, prices. A weak crop means that there's a reduction in FX and farmer incomes. Listen, gold has cushioned us. Oil has smoothed the way by its low price. But still, we need cocoa to be our traditional buffer for the city. And that is definitely an external shock that will give us problems.
I see, and maybe quickly before I let you go and go for this quick break, we're picking signals there may be a reduction in the effective tax rate from the current 21.9%. It's good news with the expectation?
The challenge we have in this country is that very few of us pay formal taxes. And those who are taxed, there's a great sense that we are being overtaxed. And so a reduction in tax rates will be welcome. But yet at the same time, I would say that we should be cautious because we are not out of the woods yet. Ghana's economy is recovering. We cannot take the recovery for granted, not at all. So I'm wondering whether a reduction in the tax rates will not hit us too hard where our revenues are concerned and where the fiscal discipline that we've shown is concerned. That it doesn't look like there will be any new taxes. Reducing the tax rate will further make our revenues, put our revenues under pressure. And so we should be careful.
Well, and we'll see how the next couple of days ahead of us will be in the full details of the budget by the Finance Minister, Dr. Kasiela Tuforse. And thank you so much for joining us. Joe Jackson is the CEO of Daylex Finance and Financial Analyst. We'll back shortly after this quick break. I'll tell you how the economic outlook is now and what to look out for as well based on the 3 News Research Desk's own analysis and projections. Stay with us. All right, welcome back. This is Ghana Tonight. We're live on 3FM 92.7. Expectations are high as the finance minister prepares to present the 2026 budget statement. It's a fiscal document that will define government spending and also revenue measures. Financial analysts anticipate that the 2026 budget will prioritize agriculture, education, energy, the health sector, infrastructure development. We've seen the big push already and some provisions for implementing the 24-hour economy. And there are others who are also concerned that even though the economy may look good, there's a lot more that needs to be done to ensure that we consolidate the gains. Because as we speak, the manufacturing base of the country is not one that we can point to and say that we can have an import substitution program. So as the 24-hour economy policy is not in full force, so as to produce some goods that we import to save us some money going out. But then again, this is one that the 3 News desk, together with Wisdom Safwa and the team, are put together to give you a clear outlook of what we are faced with as a country. And we're starting off with the currency because it's all about it, is it not? And that statement is true then, and it is true now, that when the fundamentals are weak, the exchange rate would expose you. So let's start from that point. And it's not so much about what the finance minister is going to say. It's a lot more about how people feel. That's the state of the economy. Okay? And this is it. It clearly paints a picture. We started off this year in terms of the cedi against the dollar, also almost 15 cedis. Went up to 15 cedis, 57 pesos, 16 cedis at some point. And right from just after the first quarter, we saw an injection of some $1.4 billion by the Bank of Ghana that led to the appreciation of the cedi against the dollar. Continuously, we saw the cedi do well against the dollar, dropping from that steep and high of over 15 cedis to, at some point, 10 cedis, 20 pesos. Then the conversation began as to exactly what the true value of the cedi is. And we heard the president was quite clear in his words that in his view, and based on the engagement with the economic management, with the economic team, and then also together with the Bank of Ghana, the finance ministry, the outlook is that the real value of the cedi is between 10 and 12 cedis. Well, that verdict appears to be true because as we speak, the cedi is hovering around 10 cedis, 90 pesos, 10 cedis, 95 pesos. But the question is as to how this can be sustained for the long term. That this bracket of between 10 and 12 cedis, is it one that would be sustained for the long term, as against taking into consideration the concerns that the Standard & Poor's have raised, that going into the election year, we tend to throw everything out of the window and we focus on what to do to win elections. How long will this be sustained? That's the question. But we've seen the cedi trajectory against the dollar over the period. When we saw this depreciation of the cedi, just around sometime in September, getting into October, we had the Bank of Ghana inject a little over $1.1 billion into the market to show up the value of the cedi against the dollar. And then not too long ago, just a little over a week ago, we got the announcement of some 1.1 billion as well that has been injected to sustain the value of the cedi going into the last quarter, the end of the last quarter, because it is this period that we see a high demand for dollars for a number of things. Those who are importing to the country because of the festive season as well, it's a high demand as well. But then with this demand that we have seen, it hasn't really impacted on the value of the cedi against the dollar. But if you take a look at the import and export outlook, it tells a very interesting picture. This is the trade balance as we're having it. Our exports actually exceeded our imports by over $6 billion. This is how the picture looks like as we speak. But then again, between January and August, this is the clear reflection of our trade balance. And which components, or when we talk about the commodities that have influenced this export that we see within January to August 2025. Gold, big one. Gold has led this drive of the export between January and August. 62%. And the setting up of Gold Board has been lauded as the game changer for what is happening right now with the economic improvement that we are seeing. 62% of gold exports, followed by, we see, others, cocoa, crude oil, and as we're seeing now, 10%, 14% in that order. Now, the challenge has also been given to the Ghana Cocoa Board to put measures in place to ensure that we also increase our cocoa exports. Gross international reserves, we have seen as well, that has been influenced directly by the gold export. Why? Because with the trade balance that we got, with a little over 6 billion, we have seen it influence our reserves as well, even though there was a target of the gross reserves, 3 months, we've seen a little over 4 months, 4.5 months in international reserves as we speak. And much of it has been as a result of what we're seeing with the export of gold led by the initiative of the setting up of the Gold Board. Inflation as well is one place to look at. But in as much as we've seen inflation hit single digit over the last couple of months, this does not necessarily mean that prices of goods and services have reduced this much. It just means that the rate of increase of the prices of goods and services on the market has reduced or is increasing at a lower or slower pace. What does all of this mean to your pocket? Essentially, that's what the finance minister is going to tell you on Thursday, and the measures that are going to be put in place to ensure that, one, either taxes are removed, reduced, measures that are going to be put in place to ensure that we have expenditure as well within limits, and then the specific programs and interventions that will be implemented for the next fiscal year 2026. So stay with us as we prepare for that budget presentation. It's going to be live here on TV3 and on 3FM across all media journal platforms. This is the place to be as we build up strongly to it. I am Alfred Ocansey. Thank you for staying with us here on Ghana Tonight. Join us same time tomorrow for another conversation. Do have a good night.
Ghana Tonight.